I used to think that if you were good at something, you should say yes to it every single time someone needed help, right? That my skills were like an open bar that you could walk up to, and anytime you could just keep pouring. I thought that being generous meant never setting any sort of limits, but here's what I learned the hard way. That sort of mindset can take your greatest strengths that you have and slowly turn them into heavy, exhausting burdens. This is that gift-giving fatigue. So if you've ever loved using your abilities only to end up feeling, resentful, drained, or even guilty wanting to take a break, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And today we're going to be talking about how you can turn that around. There's this sustainable service, how you do that with your gifts and your superpowers. It's all about making sure that your gifts bring joy, not just the responsibility. Now, let me ask you a few questions that might make this land for you. Have you ever been the go-to person for everyone's problems? Starting to wear, is it starting to wear on you maybe? Or maybe you used to love helping people, but now it feels like a never-ending, task or to-do list that you just didn't sign up for, or you feel guilty saying no, even though you're running on fumes right now. If any of that sounds familiar, then I want you to know you are not alone. And of course, you are not selfish for wanting those boundaries. You're not wrong for feeling tired. You're just, and gosh, you're definitely not ungrateful for the abilities you've been given. You might just be stuck in this obligation overload. You're just giving from duty and guilt instead of from, your choice and your joy. And so I want to help you unpack that today. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It came out in November. Since coming out, it has become an Amazon bestseller. It's helping tons of parents, entrepreneurs, people who are working their way to discover their gifts and superpowers, create more impact in the world, create more value for those people who are in their lives, better engagements, relationships, things like that. Living a more fulfilled life. So I think you should go get a copy. I highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description where you can go get it on Amazon. Right now, you can get it for between $2 to $10. $2 for digital, $10 for the physical. That's the best $2 to $10 that you could invest in yourself and have the best remaining part of this year and the best life that you could possibly want. So go get yourself a copy. Like I said, whether you pause the video, use the link, or just open up your Amazon app and go get yourself a copy, I highly recommend that you go grab yourself one. Okay? Now, people love it for two reasons. One, it is grounded in my story, which is just like yours. I am a parent. I've got 3 kids. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've worked in that corporate atmosphere. So I've walked similar paths to you. So the stories, the things that I'm reflecting on, they align very closely with where you're at. At the same time, the action items, exercises, every chapter has things that you can go and implement right away. And they're designed to be things that fit into your life. Not that you can just go burn everything down and go move to the mountains and go find yourself. No, you can use them where you're at right now. And so once again, I recommend you get yourself a copy of The Giver Method, whether you go to Amazon, search it, or you use the link down in the description. Now, I remember when I was in this period of time where everyone I knew, I could help them with some sort of way with their problems. And, I could untangle different, complex decisions they had, help them find clear paths forward. And at first, it did feel really good, but over time, it started to feel like I started to dread those requests. And I felt resentful, I felt guilty about feeling that resent. And I realized my gift wasn't the problem, it was how I was just giving it away so freely. And here's where the turning point was. I learned that boundaries don't shrink the generosity and the giving of your gifts. It actually protects it. And when I started putting these limits on when and how I offered help, something just incredible happened. The help I didn't give was actually the help I did give was actually more effective at that point, and it was more joyful and more appreciated. What's crazy is there's tons of data and research out there that backs this up. People who set healthy boundaries around their gifts and their superpowers see higher satisfaction, better relationships, and more energy than those who try to just endlessly be available for others. And so in this video, what I want to do is I want to walk you through 6 really practical, ideas, strategies, principles to take your gifts from being this, take them back from being burdens and take them back to being blessings in your life so that you can serve in ways that are sustainable and energizing and deeply impactful to those around you. Once again, it's not about being selfish, it's just about protecting your capacity so that you can give your best and not just the leftovers. Once again, everything is going to be grounded here in the Giver Method, so you go get yourself a copy. It's a framework that's designed specifically when you learn to give from choice instead of obligation, you stop being drained by your generosity and you start experiencing joy that your gifts were designed to create. So you can always go grab a copy on Amazon. You can go to thegivermethod.com, learn more about us, ways that we support people, some of our free resources, things like that, as well as if you want more personal support, you're looking for that one-on-one coaching, there's a link down in the description to the one-on-one coaching page. You can learn more about that. And then if you run a team, a podcast, host an event, some sort of a space where people gather and you think they could benefit from learning how to give in these ways with avoiding burnout or getting out of that burnout phase, I'd love to talk about how we can make that happen. So you'll find a link down there for speaking and podcasting as well. And of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications so that you do not miss out on any of the future content that we put out around these topics. Put out videos all week long. I would hate for you to miss out on something that could really change things for you and unpack things for you. So with that, let's dive in. Let's jump in and talk about how you can protect your gifts, reclaim more joy, and make generosity that just lasts the long haul. And so our first one, the first principle or thing I want you to think about, I call it this gift burden assessment. Like, you need to find your energy thieves, which aspects of your gifts are feeling heavy and why they've become that obligation. Because most people lump all parts of their gifts and their superpowers into one bucket. And you might wonder why it feels so heavy to be giving in that sort of a way, but not every way you use your gift will drain you. Some moments light you up, they should. Others might be wiping you out, and the trick is figuring out the difference. Your gift, the thing that you have, the skill that's so unique to you, that's not the problem. It's how you've been asked to use it. And it's the conditions around it. Like, maybe you loved solving big picture problems, but you get frustrated when people interrupt you with these quick fixes. Maybe you enjoy teaching what you're really passionate about, but you feel drained explaining the basics for the 10th time. Or maybe you thrive on helping people you care about, but get resentful when strangers expect free expertise. And so this is why I want you to create they've got a gift energy map that I want you to create, where for 1 week, what you're going to do is you're going to write down every time you use any of your gifts, your abilities, and then look for 2 columns, like energizes me and drains me. And don't just note the task, pay attention to its context. Who asked it? How did they ask you? Was it planned? Was it a drop-in request? How did you feel afterwards? Think about all those ways that could play out. For parents, you might find that you love brainstorming solutions with your teenager, but dread nightly homework battle. For entrepreneurs, you might feel fired up after a strategic client call, but get annoyed at the casual, can I pick your brain message? Or as an employee, you might enjoy mentoring someone who's eager to learn, but get frustrated being the fix-it person for all the small issues. Now, this matters because you can't make better choices without seeing your patterns that are happening to you first. So you have to understand how your energy is being impacted, how your gifts and how you're using them are impacting that energy. Once you know what's giving you the energy, what's stealing it, you can say yes to the right opportunities. You can protect yourself from the ones that drain you. That's how you turn your gift from a burden back into a blessing, for you and the people that you're serving. And so everything else is going to build on top of this understanding of how they are impacting you. Because now you're going to go protect it. Now you're going to find ways to use it more strategically. And so that leads us to the next one, which is build boundaries that let you breathe. So it's about creating specific limits around how, when and how and for whom you use your gifts. Lots of people think boundaries are like walls to shut people out. But real boundaries, the kind that protect your gifts, they're more like gates. They let the right things in, and sometimes at the right times in the right ways. They just, everything's in the right fashion, and it's protecting you from the others. When you don't have these sort of things, your gifts turn into the all-you-can-eat buffet, the open bar. Anyone can take what they want, anyone, whenever they want, and before long, you're just going to be running on empty. So there's some shifts I want you to think about. Start thinking of yourself as more of an architect. You're not just having boundaries, right? You're designing them into what you're doing. So here's 3 things you want to focus on. When you're available, that's a time boundary. When am I available to use this thing? When am I available to allow other people to have that? How you want to use your gifts, the context boundary. So when do I want to use it? How do I actually want to use it? And how don't I want to use it? And then who gets access? At what level? That's a relationship boundary. So you may have some people, your kids or your employees that your teammates, whatever, the very specific ones that you're this is how I'm going to do this. But someone else you may have a very different boundary on. So when, how, and who. For parents, this might mean homework help that happens during set times, not whenever's convenience for the kids. Emotional check-ins, get your full attention. They're not planned, not squeezed in when you're already tapped out. You have to plan those things okay, let's do these check-ins on where we're at. Entrepreneurs, maybe it's sharing general tips through free content, but deep dive advice only happens in a paid session. Or maybe you decide to do a few free consults each month and that's it. As an employee, maybe it's saying yes to strategic advice during certain hours but not last minute, hey, you got a second interruptions. Or you only take urgent requests if they are truly urgent, not someone's poor planning. Now, this works so much because when people know the rules, they can respect them. You just have to value your time. You value your time more. They're going to come more prepared. They don't take, your help for granted. And you stop feeling that like I have to be on at all times. You start giving from a place of full energy, not resentment. Boundaries don't make you less generous. They just make that generosity sustainable so you can keep showing up as your best self. Now that takes us to the third principle, which is you got to find your joy again. Reconnect with the original things that brought you joy and pleasure, the purpose you had in your gifts. Like the sneaky way that people get this gift fatigue is how slowly it like robs joy that made you like want to share your abilities in the first place. You start out really excited to help and to create, to contribute, and over time the weight, the expectation buries like that spark under obligation and pressure, and everyone else's like shoulds. You should be, we should have this. Like, here's the truth. The joy isn't gone, it's just buried. And when you dig it back up, it's going to change everything for you. And so start with like your origin story. What did you first realize? Like, when did you first realize you had this gift? What made you light up about it? Who did you help? How did it make you feel to see them benefit from what you could do? And then revisit that moment, not just as like these nostalgia trips, but as reminders of like what you're actually trying to protect. And then give yourself like the just because space for your gifts. Use them like the zero pressure, no audience, no strings attached, like I'm going to solve the problem just for fun, right? You can create something beautiful and never post it online. You could help someone who can't do anything for you in return. Like that's just how you get a like pure version of like your gift, how you're just giving it back out there. You're just getting it started and feeling it again. There's no return expected from it. And then next you could play with new ways to use your abilities. If you give like advice one-on-one, like if that feels like it's draining you, like try teaching a group. If you work, if work projects feel stale, apply the skills like apply skills for a cause that you care about, right? Sometimes it's not the gift that's the problem, it's the container that you've been keeping it in. For parents, think back to moments when with your kids where it felt like giving instead of like checking off all the boxes. Do that more. Entrepreneurs, like remember the types of work that made like you want to start a business in the first place, and then intentionally make space for that. Employees, like chase projects that make you feel appreciated and connected, like with your impact, because your joy is like a compass. It's going to guide you where you need to go. It points you back to the version of your gifts that are worth giving. When you reconnect with it, you're not just more creative and effective, like you're also naturally better at just saying no to stuff that is draining you. Joy isn't selfish. It's what makes generosity feel real and sustainable and alive again. Now, our fourth principle, like you serve where it matters most. You got to choose specific ways to use your gifts, because one of the quickest ways you burn out is believing that you have to help everyone with everything. That's how your gifts are going to start feeling like, weight instead of a privilege. Selective service isn't about being stingy with your generosity. It's just about making sure that, the way you give lines up with your energy and your values and your purpose, so you can actually make a difference in the world, like without running yourself into the ground. The thing is, like, not every request for your help is created equal. Some's going to light you up. Others are going to leave you feeling like you need a nap. Some people will take advice and run with it. Others, they just let it collect dust. Some situations will let your gifts shine. Others will box them in. And the difference is knowing which is which before you say yes. So start by creating your own service checklist. Like, does this align with what matters most to me? Will a person actually use what I give them? Is this the best use of my abilities? Do I have the bandwidth to do this right now? If the answer is no, to too many of these, probably not a right fit for yourself. Next thing you do is give yourself permission to pause before you answer a request. You simply say hey, let me think about that and get back to you. It gives you breathing room that lets you respond with intention instead of guilt, or just the reflex of it. Parents, this might mean pouring your energy into areas where your kids truly need you and stepping back from things they can and probably should figure out on their own. For entrepreneurs, it could mean working with clients who excite you and projects that bring you out your best, even if that means saying no to decent opportunities that just don't light you up. As an employee, it might look like saying yes to the projects where you can grow your skills or move your career forward, and pass on busy work that keeps you stuck. Because your focus multiplies your impact. When you spread yourself too thin, you end up giving average, or basic help to everyone instead of meaningful help to the right people. When you get intentional about where your gifts go, you protect that energy, you amplify those results, but the people, they respect your contributions even more. And that takes us to the fifth principle, which is just like you got to reset at resetting the expectations game, learning to just communicate that availability, and limitations to others. The fast way people are going to burn out is when, it is what people expect from you and what you can actually give are two totally different things. And gosh, the biggest, the kicker to that is a lot of those expectations were set by, they were set by you in the past. You just didn't set clear expectations at the time. Back when your capacity or your season or your life maybe looked different, or you've always been available, you've always been the go-to, then naturally, people just naturally assume that that's still the case. Realigning expectations isn't about letting people down. It's about being honest so that you can keep showing up in the ways that actually work for you. In fact, it makes your relationships better because it clears out any resentment that builds when you're, constantly overextending, and it stops others from being disappointed when what they expect, when they want you to give more than you're actually going to give. And so it starts by being upfront. There's the loving limitation language, which I love this concept. It's something like, hey, I care about this and I want to give you my best, which means I can't take it right now. Here's what I can do. Or hey, I'd rather give my full attention later than feel super rushed on this right now. So here's what we can do. Just use it with that loving limitation language. Like I said, it's such a great concept out there. And then there's the expectation reset conversations with the people that lean on you the most. Now, these aren't confrontations. You want to be about collaborations. Something like, hey, I really enjoy helping you and I want to keep doing it sustainably. Can we figure out the best way for me to support you that doesn't completely drain me, that doesn't burn me out, that isn't, causing me to overextend in these other areas that I need to be focused on? When you can't say yes and have some sort of alternate offer ready, maybe you connect them with someone else. Maybe you share a resource. Maybe you teach them how to handle themselves. There's all sorts of ways to approach this. For parents, it might mean telling your kids exactly when and how, you can help. And building in space for them to take on more themselves. For entrepreneurs, it could be look like setting clear boundaries between free advice and paid work, or letting people know your response time up front. And as an employee, it could be talking with your manager about priorities so you can give your best where it matters most. When expectations match reality, everyone's going to win. It's just a true fact. People know what they can count on you for. They stop feeling you stop feeling stretched thin. And those relationships can actually grow stronger because they're built on honesty instead of this silent frustration from one or both parties. And then, of course, our sixth one, sustainable gift plan, right? This is that long-term approach to using your gifts that creates really meaningful impact and maintains the joy. How you share your gifts for the long haul without losing the joy, the end goal isn't just to set boundaries. It's to actually build a way of sharing these gifts, because we want you to get them. You're the only person that has your combination of gifts, superpowers, and experiences, so you're the only person that can make the impact in the way that you can. We don't want to just guard those off from everybody, but it's actually the way that we build how you share these things, and keep doing that for years without feeling drained or resentful. Think of it as playing the long game with your impact. And so sustainable giving means protecting your energy so you can show up your best, not just when you have scraps of time, and strength, some little bit of strength left, right? It's knowing the difference between saying yes because you can and saying yes because it aligns with your purpose, your energy, and the kind of difference that you actually want to make. And so the first thing you want to do is get really practical. So there's this gift legacy vision, picturing yourself 5 years from now. How do you want to be using your gifts, your abilities? Who do you want to be helping with it? What do you want people to remember about the way that you showed up? And then build what's your capacity plan? Track that energy like you would track money. You can't spend what you don't have. The warning signs of burnout, and have to reset routine ready before you crash. You gotta have something in place. So what's that plan? And then measure your real impact. Goodness, don't just look at how much you've done. Ask, is it actually making a difference? Is this the best use of the gifts right now? That way you can adjust before the generosity turns into obligation. Like I said, for parents, this might mean focusing on moments and skills that truly shape your kids long term instead of pouring energy into things they could learn to handle themselves. It could be using, as an entrepreneur, it could be designing a system that offers to serve deeply without having every touch point, every detail being on you, freeing you to focus on the work that lights you up. As an employee, it could be contributing where your unique value is most needed and not being the yes person for every single task. And of course, don't skip like your sustainability check-ins, asking yourself regularly, am I energized by this? Is it making the impact I want? Am I growing, with this, or am I just depleting myself? The world doesn't just need you now. It needs you thriving 10, 20, 30 years from now with your gifts. When you make your giving sustainable, you're not just protecting yourself, you're creating this ripple effect that shows everyone around you it's possible to be both generous and grounded. And so here's what I want you to walk away with. Like, the gifts that you have, these superpowers, were never meant to feel like they were weighing or dragging you down, right? Like, they were meant to make you feel life and feel energized, and you to be the person, like, gosh, you're the only person who could share it, and that should really energize you and get you excited. When they start feeling heavy, it's not a sign that you've run out of generosity or that the gift's no good. Like, it's just a sign that, hey, we need to shift how we're giving. Everything we talked about, from figuring out what energizes you versus drains you, building healthy boundaries, reconnecting with your joy, making sure that you can keep giving without running yourself into the ground. Like, you don't have to choose between being kind and protecting your energy. You don't have to burn yourself out just to prove you care. You definitely don't have to say yes to every single request that comes your way. The truth is, people don't need all of you all the time. They need the best version of you and the most authentic version of you. And that only shows up when you're operating from choice, from choice and joy, and from a place that's sustainable. I learned it the hard way, from working with lots of people. I've done it myself. I've worked with lots of people through this as well, and the only way that you can help is you can't be endlessly available. The most impactful people I know protect their capacity. They're super intentional about where their gifts go, because of that, like, they create deeper impact and more meaningful connections without losing themselves in that process. Now, if any of that hits home for you, then that's where I'm going to recommend you go get yourself a copy of The Giver Method on Amazon. Like I said, there'll be a link in the description that you can go get that. It's loaded with practical ways to discover your gifts, set boundaries, and actually stick to them, and build the life that, a life of giving that leaves you feeling full, not empty. If you want more personal support, like I said, maybe you've been running on empty for a while and you want a clear plan of how to make this sort of thing sustainable, then I've got a few one-on-one coaching slots that have opened up. Go check out the coaching link down in the description. And if you lead a team, run a podcast, host an event, have a group where they could benefit from this sort of a conversation, and avoiding burnout, let's talk about how we could bring it to them. There's a link down about speaking and podcasting. And if this video shifted anything for you, if it changed your perspective, I'd love to know what you're taking away in the comments. Like, I read them, and your insights help me shape what I make next. And of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications so that you do not miss out on the content that I create and drop all week long. Remember, your boundaries, these aren't walls to keep people out. They're containers to keep your best energy in so it can flow longer and stronger and in the right direction. Protect your gifts, and you'll find that they only grow in impact and joy and connection. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and taking the time to invest in yourself here. Hopefully we will catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day.